So Mark Reckless has now become the second UKIP MP in a matter of a couple of months. Despite throwing the kitchen sink at Rochester and Stroud, the Conservatives couldn't really get anywhere close to UKIP, who won by a pretty convincing 2,900 votes. In the name of fairness, and to show that I am no UKIP stooge, I'm gonna let the Conservatives and Labour and the dribble Democrats in on why people are flocking to UKIP. I'm going to give you a recent example as well. Over the last few weeks, the Conservatives and Labour have both said that they're going to start getting tough on immigration. They're going to have a debate. They're going to get to the bottom of what's going on with immigration. Both parties are being intellectually dishonest, and they're playing the public for ignorant fools, because the parties know they can do nothing about immigration unless they come out of the EU. Despite their rhetoric, they cannot do a fucking thing. That is a fact. It's not a coincidence, it's not a conspiracy, it's a bloody fact. They're both doing this to be more like Farage, to appeal to the voters who've switched to UKIP. Of course, they'll deny this till the cows come home, but anyone that hasn't got a lonely brain cell can see otherwise. So, Conservative MPs, Labour MPs, dribble Democrat MPs, if you're sitting comfortably, I will begin. When Christians came to crossroads in their lives, it's said by some that they would ask themselves, now, what would Jesus do in this situation? Bear with me. Well, in order for you to get the electorate that has deserted you back, you need to ask yourself, well, what would Nigel do in this situation? Don't get me wrong, I'm in no way comparing the pint-swilling, yellow trouser, fag-smoking Farage to JC, but you take my point. I mean, look at this article. Cameron defends plan to plough 650 million into green foreign aid. Britain is expected to hand over at least 650 million. Mr. Cameron stressed the UK cash was from funds already earmarked for development and not a new burden on the taxpayers. But Tory MP Sir Edward Lee raised concerns in the Commons when he asked if the best way to help the poor of the world is to spend 650 million on a climate fund taken out of an aid budget that increased 28% last year. I am assuming this is the same bulk of money being discussed in this next article. Although I can't be sure, but knowing this bunch of crooks that run our country, you honestly just have no idea what is being spent and what's going on. But look at this article. As Somerset faces new floods, we're set to pay 600 million for third world flood defences. Tory MPs fury at new aid giveaway. Britain is to hand over an expected 600 million to fight global warming in the third world, including cash to build sea and flood defences. Angry MPs said last night that voters would not understand why money is being sent overseas when not enough has been done to shore up flood defences here. Whether this money is coming from an existing budget or an additional burden on the taxpayer really doesn't matter. You see, what does matter, and this is the kicker, is that the elderly, many of whom have worked all their lives and paid national insurance and tax, will be unable to heat their homes this winter, and yet Cameron is sending another 650 million overseas to fight global warming when there hasn't been any warming for at least 18 years. And even more embarrassing for Spam Cam is that part of this fund is to build flood defences in the third world when we haven't even got enough money to build flood defences at home. So, Cameron, ask yourself, what do you think Nigel would do with that cash? Heat the elderly's home and build flood defences in Somerset? Or send it to a third world dictator and fuck the elderly and fuck those moaning fuckers in Somerset? Well, Cameron, your answer is crystal clear. You clearly don't care about the elderly or the people in Somerset. As long as you're nice and warm this winter, hey Cameron? Now, I can't speak for Nigel Farage, but I'm almost certain that that £650 million would not be going to dictators abroad where so much of our foreign aid ends up. This is one example why, Despite the number of kitchen appliances Cameron throws at people, is a sink a kitchen appliance? Not sure. Anyway, you get my point. Despite how many they throw, they do not trust Cameron. They do not trust Miliband. David Cameron has the perception that he is only in Downing Street to look after his silver spoon friends. He may care about the people, but him and Miliband and the rest of the Tories and the rest of Labour come across as if they just do not give a shit. This is why people are turned off by them more and more. Farage, for all his faults, and believe me, there are fucking plenty of them, and for all his lack of policies, one thing he has got is that he looks like he gives a shit about the public. The general public can relate to that. You, Cameron, don't. You, Miliband, don't. It's all spin, spin, spin. We don't want a well-oiled machine anymore. We want change, and more of the establishment is not change. I know some of you will now jump off your seat and say, hang on a sec, that Nigel Farage was a stockbroker. He's establishment as they get. Well, that may be the case, but do you know why I like UKIP? Because they give us all hope that there is life beyond the Tories and Labour. Because after all, they're the same flavour in a different fucking colour. Who knows, maybe in 20 or 30 years, because of UKIP, the main parties in the UK might be, I don't know, UKIP, the Democracy Now! Party and the Brotherhood of Freedom Party, with the Tories and Labour as fringe parties. Who knows? But personally, it gives me hope that collectively we can see that we can change things through the system. We all know the system's corrupt. We all know that it needs changing, but what are we going to do? Storm Downing Street with our pitchforks? This gives us hope that we can do something. I may be being overly hopeful or incredibly naive, who knows? But you have to have hope. Otherwise, what is the fucking point?